All right. Welcome everyone to the Thursday, January 15th, 2026, first meeting of 2026. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be held remotely. And we will kick it off with introductions. So we'll invite all of our panelists to introduce themselves. I don't see any attendees at the moment. Should we still do introductions for posterity in the record? Great.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll go around committee members by first name. So I think Allie, you kick us off.
Hi, I'm Allie Bernard, and I'm a certified tree keeper and tree enthusiast, and I'm an associate member of the committee.
My next. Hey everyone, I'm David, tree warden for Somerville and a member of the Urban Forestry Committee.
Good evening. My name is Doris. I am a member of the committee and a certified arborist.
Hey, I'm Joelle. I'm a member of the committee and a tree enthusiast.
I think I'm next. My name is Leah Grossman. I'm one of the co-chairs of the committee, and I also am enthusiastic about trees. And I'm a landscape architect.
My name is Luca. I'm a youth member of the committee.
Sorry about that. Hi, my name is Michael Hendricks. I'm a co-chair of the committee and tree enthusiast.
I am Suzanne Warner. I am a member of the committee and a landscape designer and friend of the trees.
And I'm Vanessa Bukili, Senior Urban Forestry and Landscape Planner and an arborist and enjoying winter parks.
Awesome. All right, and we still have no attendees, getting off to a slow start to the year. So we don't have to promote anyone, but we will still open it up to resident concerns if any of the committee members have concerns as residents. And while we think about that, Tori, right on time, you can say hello.
Hi, my name is Tori Antonino. I am a UFC committee member.
And we have just to catch you up, no attendees yet, so open floor for committee/resident concerns. I have one if no one else does. It might come up in city updates, but I've been seeing a lot of tree work happening around the Spring Hill area, which is promising. One of the trees I did see they pruned it, but I think that tree is definitely dead. So I can point to the one and we can wait till spring to confirm. But I was like, oh yeah, I feel like that's probably one that's gonna go away. And then I was like, oh, they just pruned it nicely, but it's kind of a sad tree. So I can let you know the address and
Yeah, what's the address? Or yeah,
um,
address would be helpful.
yeah, it is on Central and Summer on Central Street, and it's right next to a apartment car parking lot.
Yeah, I think that might be the one we flagged for removal, David.
Oh, the one it's kind of like it kind of creeps over like this. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely a removal.
Okay.
And if they pruned it, they're going back again to remove it. I don't think I'm not going to say you didn't see them prune it, but I had notes on their paperwork that said has orange dot on it, don't prune. So hopefully
Okay.
they didn't. And in their it's not even in their paperwork that they could bill for. And I'm the only
Okay.
one who can put stuff in to bill for. So they'll be will have updates coming up, but they've been going through basically all the removals I've approved since I've been here, some old ones, and this last week and next week coming up, they're working through those. So kind of a scary time throughout the city, but they've all been talked about. So except for two.
Great. And yeah, it was 44 to 48 Central Street.
Yeah.
But I think you know the one, so.
We'll check.
Great. Any other resident concerns? And Rob, welcome. Feel free to say hello.
Hi, everybody. Rob Van Den Abel, associate member. I'm gonna have to duck out a little early, but I might be able to come back. Heading to a cool native plant trust webinar. And I have another interesting thing I'd like to share, but I'll wait for later on that. There's some interesting data I was privy to at the Cambridge tree meeting yesterday. I wanted to see if it'd be interesting to compare it with some different data that Somerville might have and do a really cool sort of a paper with some interesting different data points about the trees.
Awesome. Great. Well, let's plug on ahead then. Oh, and hi, Marion. Welcome as well. I dropped the agenda in the chat because it's nicer to look at our faces. And so, yeah, if there's no other resident concerns, let's just move forward to updates from the city. Starting with city tree removals.
Yes, hold on just a moment. I'm a little scattered. Yeah, that I found that tree, and I just want to make sure I pop it up just to double check. So let's see. Share my screen. Sharing is not turned on.
Sorry, I think I just allowed
All
you
right.
to.
All right, can everyone see? Great. So this is the tree on Central. It's listed as 147 Summer. Does that look familiar?
Yep. Yeah, that's the one.
All right, great. Yeah, it's a beautiful specimen.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have two trees that have been added to the list since last month. Last month was a good month, and the month before that was a good month. But let's see. So we have a normal constituent had a request in for this tree, 15.43 Norway maple. It actually has a fairly decent canopy, though it's a little sparse looking back at summertime pictures, but it has pretty significant decay here on the trunk and quite a few fruiting bodies. So this union here is very poor. We've got a lot of decay in there at the base, and then also as you get up in the canopy, I would consider just pruning that out. But up in the canopy, we have this section up here, which also has a bunch of fruiting bodies up there. So one of the main leaders that would remain, say if we were to prune out that one section, also has a compromised area. So it is an imminent threat, unfortunately. And yeah, they had a pretty decent span, but not something I feel comfortable keeping around. And there's no real options on this tree to try to say shrink this canopy down to even keep to try to reduce weight out of that canopy to make those unions be holding less weight because there's nothing to really even prune back to after a substantial reduction. And I'm not drawing up the list normally because I just added to it all of the removals I'm giving the contractor, and it's pretty busy. So just itemizing one by one. There's one on 23 Brooks Street that we had a storm damage occurred, I want to say in November. And this is what was left of the canopy after this half of the canopy had failed. And I've been monitoring it, hoping to keep it around and even potentially, make some heavy reduction cuts up there and keep the canopy around. But this is what it looks like after the failure. However, this isn't that different than it actually looked before the failure, knowing what pear trees looked like. So this included bark, my thought was, might not be affected too much other than just being opened up to a little more wind. But this area right here, so I'll click to another picture in a sec, it started to show signs of new separation. So this tree's been splitting out more, and this is going to fail likely before the winter's out if we don't take it out. So I was hoping to keep that one around, even though there was some pretty significant storm damage, but tree is longer going to be with us after next week. So yeah, and I will note that we have I think about 50 trees between this week and next week slated to be removed by Stanley, our contractor. I haven't, since I've been coming to Urban Forestry Committee, I've been sharing the removals that I've been sharing. I haven't been aggressively going after because our tree crew here in Somerville is a little smaller than we'd like it. We've done some, but for the most part, I haven't completed a lot of the removals. So if you're out and about, you'll notice trees being taken down, but we have talked about them and new opportunities for new plantings. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I will also add David and team are working on stump removal, so you'll see some stump grinding about as well. Those take a long time, but progress.
Curiosity question on that. Are you doing stump removals through the winter? Or is it prohibitive if the ground is frozen?
Yeah, so we're doing stump removals whenever possible. It just happens to be so there's a particular hold, like slowdown on stumps. Once the risk has been taken out of the community, our limited resources often have to go after pruning other risky things in the community. So stumps are unfortunately left to be done at a later date. Stumps are particularly time consuming and can take anywhere from a few hours to several days. We've had one recently that took like a week. We have to coordinate with a couple different departments in order to have the sidewalks broken out on a lot of the stumps. That's a long-winded way to get around to we have extra help this winter in grounds. We have people who normally might be out mowing and doing other things during the growing season who are dedicated right now to um, doing the stumps and not the one arborist we have furiously working away. So we can grind stumps at any time. Just happens to be we have extra manpower right now to try to work down this backlog we have. So
Awesome. Thanks for the context. All right, let's move on to private tree removals and exemptions.
I'll take that one. Malik just let me know he did not get a chance to fully update the list. So I will say mostly, if you have any questions about any specific trees you see, let me know, and I'll try to give a more thorough update next time. I did just check the spreadsheet and noticed we may have discussed these before, but I hadn't marked them as you have been informed. So I'm just going to go over these 4 permits in case we haven't talked about them before, or to remind you if we have. They are permits that have been issued and late-ish last year. So one is here at 39 Irvington. It's a silver maple, a large silver maple that looks hazardous. So that is hazardous. So it was exempt, but has a permit anyways. 92 Glen Street has a large sycamore maple. So those are invasive species that are exempt. It must be under 24 inches based on these notes. And 24 Laurel Street looks like 2 different trees, mulberry trees that are really close to a property. So they have received a permit and a waiver from mitigation requirements. And then 17 to 19 Magnus Avenue is a red oak tree that's hollowing. So that sounds like it is also eligible for a waiver based on its condition. Yeah. So any questions about those or any other trees you've heard about? Anyone? Great.
Hearing none.
Okay.
And then exemptions, or those are the ones that David went over, right?
Well, exemptions, I didn't see any new ones
Okay.
from last time in our sheet here.
Great.
I think we've had a few come in, but I don't know. I don't have them all organized at the moment.
Cover it next time.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions on that or other updates from the city? Tori?
Yeah, I was thinking about this stump grinding, and I guess it is very timely and costly. And I have read about like liquid or like salts that you inject into the stump that like it might take a little longer, like time-wise, but it's a lot less effort. Is there, David, are you familiar with any other processes besides like manual stump grinding that work, or have you heard of these solutions?
yes, there are, since the sun has come up, people have been trying to get rid of stumps in various in various ways. Uh, I think with another way to do it is drilling a lot of holes in stumps to allow water to get in there and increase the decay time. I think the time frame on any of those, other than burning them or somehow extracting them with some sort of machinery, is just too slow for what we're really looking for because there's such an eyesore and also potential. Not all stump locations are potential for new plantings just due to if you think about the tree roots, and a stump grinder can really only get down about 18 inches or so. So sometimes we have to move trees over if a tree was too large that was removed, but just time is the reason we want to use machinery, I think.
Okay, well, if there's ever room to explore this, like if there's a backlog, you're like, I'm not going to get to that stump for 6 months because don't have the person power. I'm just putting it on offer as a potential to like, you know, do less and more at the same time, just using time. If it's like, all right, yeah, that's the tree's not going down that on that in that area. It's not in the way of anyone. Just I don't know enough about it, but maybe it's something we can explore.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's I'll keep it in mind, though I do think most things involved, at least what I know about, takes would take years and years. And the good thing about a lot of our trees is they that are being removed, they do often already have some hollowed out sections and are already on their way to decaying, but we'll keep it in mind. And if anything comes up, you'll be first on the list.
You're so good, David. It's smooth, very smooth. Thank you.
See Rob's hand.
Yeah, in this same vein, I'm wondering what, if anything, is not necessarily policy, but what's maybe preferred procedure in terms of stumps that are not sort of in the public way, so to speak, but in parks or other green spaces and maybe pose significantly less risk if you were to leave a snag, for example, or if a stump were left as just, habitat, obviously, in an indiscreet sort of way. I don't know. Just wondering if there's any thought process that goes into that at all.
We definitely have left a few snags in areas that it makes sense to leave them, like in some unmaintained areas in Prospect Hill, like in the back area. And um, I know we have a big dump in some of the gardens where we're not going to replant a tree anyways. So we definitely do take that into account. Parks are such nice places to plant trees that it's also good when possible to replant to get those stumps out so we can get new tree growing. But we do think about that, or I do. I think David does too. I just have more of the history for our trees.
Yeah, if thank you for that, Vanessa. Parks are low on the priority for me. Usually I respond more to if it's in the parks, I respond more to 311 service requests from the constituents saying, "Hey, what's going on with this?" I will say they are of an already kind of a slow list to get to. They're usually lower on the list. So they usually take the way of the earth sooner than other stumps.
And I see Marion's hand.
I just wanted to ask with regard to stumps. I know that there's one here in East Somerville on private property that has provided ample and beautiful habitat for rats. And I was wondering if that is a concern in some of these cases and whether that is part of your consideration.
Yeah, I haven't considered rats, though I will say that a large percentage of stumps that have decay in the center of them are become trash cans. You'll notice, I think, around the city, or maybe not, but notice now, we leave them a little bit higher off of the ground so that they're not a tripping hazard. But yeah, they collect all kinds of things. And in a perfect world, when performing a tree removal, we would remove the stump at the same time, get that all tidied up, and it just at the moment the workflow is not quite there. Rats are an ever-present problem in our city and other cities as well. So I don't actually get calls for rats, so I don't think about them much, but I know that they're out there. So
Great. I'd love to push on to our agenda if there's no other concerns. I think next up is ongoing work updates, and the first of that is the UFC recommendations for the mayor, no longer mayor-elect. Um, so I think a subgroup was formed.
Yes, a subgroup was formed and we haven't met. And if there is still interest from Suzanne and Luca and Marion and Rob, I can send out that email and we can get that for the next meeting. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. I'll do that.
Absolutely.
I'll do that right now.
I actually had something else that came up today just because I went to this thing on heat resilience that was not about trees at all, but in the process of the conversation, I was like, we need to talk a little bit more about how we handle heat resilience in the context of like in how we think about planting trees too. So we should talk about that.
That sounds very relevant and like a good potential collaboration. Great. So we will await more updates on that next month. Then our next group is outreach. I have a little update. I got an email from the Winter Farmers Market, and they wanted to see what availability we had for February and March. So I was hoping we could just do like a quick show of hands so I can get back to her, and I forgot. I was not able to find in my notes who would be interested in tabling. So if we have a little bit of time, is that okay with folks? I'll just run down the list and maybe people can just like raise their hands if they have availability. I can give it a little bit of context. So in the past, I think we missed last winter, but usually we try and table at the Winter Farmers Market once in the winter. And I think a few years ago we had space to have two tables and do a little bit of an activity. I know they try and get more folks in these days, so usually we're like sharing a table and just have our information and are looking to share that out. And I think we can brainstorm what kinds of things we want to focus on, given that it's winter and it's sort of planning season, and share information and resources. So. Yeah. Luca, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, sorry, I was just wondering if you could repeat what this event is again.
Oh, yeah. It's the Winter Farmers Market. So at the Armory, every Saturday, there is a big farmers market, and sort of upstairs, right as everyone comes in, they pass to community tables. And so various organizations are tabling at these throughout the year. And sometimes it is us, which is great because we can get a lot of people who are interested in sustainable food systems, which has overlap with trees and all the great things that we do. So I'll drop in, this is the link to the winter market generally. And it's from 9:30 to 1:30. So ideally we have 4 people who are available on a date so that we can have like 2 people come for 2 hours and then 2 people for two more hours, so you're not there for too long. So if that sounds good, I'm just gonna run through all the dates. Six dates. So I think first up would be February 7th, which is pretty soon. And I'm not available for that one, but if we had critical mass, I can offer it. Seeing shaking heads. All right, we have 1, 2.
I saw 2. Yeah.
All right. And then, all right, I'm skipping the next one because it's the long weekend. So I assume folks are maybe busy. But the next one after that would be February 21st. Marion, Doris, Suzanne, Joelle. Awesome. And I see Michael's a maybe. That's great. And then 2/28, February 28th. I see Doris, Suzanne, Marion, maybe. Excellent. And then March 7th, Suzanne, Doris. Amazing. 3/21, Marion, Suzanne. All right, last one, 3/28. Same bunch. Cool. Joelle, maybe. All right. So that's quite a good list. I'll send those back and we'll just be doing it once. So it won't be all of those dates. We'll just see what they still have availability for. And I think, yeah, just having one table is probably fine. So I'll follow up with those folks and then follow up with those of us who are available on any of those dates. And I will include Michael as a maybe. Does anyone else want to be included as a maybe? Tori? Great. And Luca? Awesome. Thanks, everybody. And next up on our list, any other outreach updates? We haven't met in a while, but I know we're pretty organized at this time.
I'm just realizing once you have a date set, give me a little heads up. We moved offices, as you probably know, and I
Oh
need to
yeah.
remember where I put everything.
Awesome. So I might hold off on offering the first date in February just to give us a little bit more time.
I think I know where it is, so I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can make it happen.
Okay. Excellent. Great. I'll add Ally to the maybe list. Okay. Next up is the UFC overview and startup question answering. So I know we haven't looked at this in a while, but let's see if we have any last questions to answer. Well, I think we only have one left. And it's not a very exciting one, but we can talk about it anyways because it's a good reminder.
I just opened it, and we also have the one Chris was going to do, but didn't end up
Oh, the first.
sending a thing. What is the short history of the committee?
Yeah, maybe that's a more interesting one to talk about since we do have a little bit of time today, given we don't have any presentations, right, on our agenda. Yeah. We'll, we can take this on. Is there a, yeah, maybe this is a good opportunity. I don't know if, I would look to Tori and Vanessa to give a little bit of history as founding members.
Sure, I can start and you can fill in the blanks, Tori. Sound good? Let's see. Short history of the committee. Well, we were established as part of the updated tree preservation ordinance in 2019. That ordinance and the committee, the decision of what the committee would be was sort of a joint meeting of the minds, I suppose, from some advocates, Chris and probably Tori, I can't remember exactly, and myself and the city council. And before this committee happened, there was, I don't think this is important to add here, but just for your own context, there was supposed to be a committee before, but it like didn't exist since I started work, so in 2016. So I don't know what happened to that, but this was the re-envisioned Urban Forestry Committee with more members. The original member set did not include the youth members. That was added later. Once the ordinance was created, it took probably a few months to get all the committee members chosen. I think we had like 40 applicants for the first round chosen, and what do you call it? Someone who's done it recently, you sign the document and it's called your official. I'm forgetting what things are called right now. It's embarrassing.
Confirmation? No.
Confirmation, thank you. Get confirmed. And yeah, then we started meeting monthly and sort of decided how we would work as a group. So we set the meeting time. It was in person at first. I don't think we had that many in-person meetings. And then COVID hit. So yeah, we sort of determined how it'd work. We have had co-chairs from the beginning. We use the ordinance language as our guidance for what we would talk about and review, but it's sort of morphed over time a bit. I don't think we have a list of all the former committee members anywhere. I could put that together if that's of interest for the website. Yeah, we probably have like 1 to 3 people turn over every year, I'd say. What else is interesting to say? Suzanne, you have a question. Maybe you'll spur me to think of something interesting.
I was wondering like where the idea of putting the committee in the tree protection ordinance came from. And like, I guess longer standing committees in the area, or if there are like other committees that we could take precedence from.
The ordinance was sort of re-envisioned by Chris and the city councilor with input from myself and of course the legal team and all that and the mayor, but Chris sort of took the ideas from other ordinances in nearby cities like Lexington, I think, and Arlington and Cambridge, and was thinking about it that way. And I used to go to the Cambridge public planting meetings before I started working here, and sort of took that as some inspiration too for what I thought was a useful way for a committee to be engaging and assisting with urban forestry needs. So I was pushing some of those things. I saw it as a way to really help with the items that we don't get a chance to do as much as we would like to as staff members, like the engagement piece and getting the information out to the public. We spend more time doing things than telling people what we're doing, and so people don't know what we're doing. So that's super helpful part of the committee, and to, with all the expertise that the committee members have, also be, reviewing plans as they see fit. Maybe bringing new, fresh perspectives from what I could give. So that's why it was part of that ordinance. What was the other question? Oh, what other committees? There aren't other longer standing committees with much overlap in thought. There's the committee, the CEUCC, the Committee on Energy Use and Climate Change, which I believe was rebranded recently, and I don't know what its new name is. um, which has a focus on environmental things, but more from a, energy use perspective. So they don't really focus on the natural world. It's more, building code and that sort of um, energy consumption side of things. And then there's the Conservation Commission, but they are a regulatory authority that is really focused on wetlands protection, and it's something that is mandated by the state. So every community has to have one. And they also oversee the community gardens program. And they used to do more sort of general natural things, but I think that they took a step back from that once we had the um, parks um, department, basically, which it used to be part of transportation and infrastructure at that time, but is now public space and urban forestry. So they did, some things, but not really tree focused. We also gain insight to some extent from the what's the like the transit committee, like bike, what's it called? PTAC Public Transit. I don't, yeah, advisory committee, maybe. I don't know. But I think Chris may have been involved in that, so he used that sometimes as an example since he was was he our first co-chair? So just how they like write memos and review things and give advice. I think some of the way that they work in that way we've modeled after. Thank you for making what I'm saying more logical when you're writing it down. Yeah. Any other questions? Or input, Tori? Do you have more to add? What am I missing?
No, you just have a great memory. I'm like, oh yeah, and that. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking there were a few things that there were a few things that converged, and I think you know, the sort of felling of all the trees on the Green Line and on Beacon Street. So there are a few things that kind of was like, well, who's watching the trees? And like, we and on Beacon Street it was, there might have been at one point it was planned, but people just kind of like woke up and the trees were gone and it was so yeah, there was a moment in time where we lost a lot of trees all at the same time and just it's like that was a precipitating moment to to find out like do we have it? Is there a tree committee? Oh, we have a tree committee. It only met once. I know these people. And then yeah, Chris was really and Vanessa and legal and PSUF were very instrumental at using language in the tree preservation ordinance to strengthen it and to revive the committee.
And you also changed a lot of our focuses too, making sure that we didn't focus just on trees, but as
Yeah.
the forest as a whole. So shrubs were included
Yeah.
and, the focus on native plants and that side of things too. So couldn't have done it without you, Tori.
How far we've come.
Mhm.
I'm having a moment of pride, I have to say. I'm just, you know, our committee is it's a bright spot in my day. So we done good. We're doing good.
Absolutely.
It's good to look back. We have to go back and thank Dorothy for all these great questions. And I think it's a good activity as well to sort of look back at what we've written over the past, I guess, year or so since we started this document. And I would sort of also challenge us to think about what other questions should we be answering how can we continue to like document this continuing story so that it can keep building.
Also, now if we're almost done, our newest member should review this and let us know if you guys have other questions. I mean, any member,
Mhm.
obviously, but
Yeah.
maybe we're missing something that you were curious about, or one of these questions sparks more
And I
thoughts.
think since this is just anyone with the link can view, so I can drop this into the chat.
Yep.
So yeah, we can't have multiple people over quorum editing at the same time, but anyone can view this list and think about if they have other questions or clarifications on anything that's been written. But I think the idea behind it was that it would just be an internal document to the committee and something that helps sort of guide us and can be a resource for new members to kind of get caught up on the history so that we can also start, new members can jump in a little bit quicker. Because I know I had a similar experience of joining the committee. It takes like a year to really understand what we're all even doing here. And so I think the idea was for this to help catalyze new members to be able to get onboarded a little bit sooner so they feel like they have a little bit more agency to speak up and feel like it's building upon something in the same direction.
I also think it might be good to have goals for outreach. I know we've tried to brainstorm on this in the past, but I think it'd be nice to go to a tabling event and know that these are the 6 questions I want people to ask. If they don't have anything kind of coming out of them internally, or if there's anything that we can do to, help something, like if there's a list of trees that need to be adopted, bringing that to the table or something and trying to help people find one that's near them. I don't know, just to make us, more effective and consistent in our outreach.
Yeah, that's a great idea and should probably catalyze another outreach subcommittee meeting before we have our winter farmers market tabling and then before we start our more active tabling season throughout the summer. So I think that's great. All right. Any other questions on any of these questions, or I think we still have some other committees to go over, so that might also spur some new conversation. But this is also a great start of the year chat, just to like refresh on what we're doing here and allow us to reflect a little bit. So, all right, I'll stop sharing that. And then next up, I think is species selection and planting protocol, which has not met in a while. Probably needs to meet, but I think, yeah, I need to remember what our latest goals are. But I think the next item, the most wanted weeds, I think that does have action items, and our next tabling event is a good inspiration to kind of wrap up that board and have it available at our outreach events. So I think there is a group of folks that were willing and able to review that. So I think that one's on my list unless anyone wants to help remind us to keep doing it. And
I know I'm on the list too. I forget who else is on there, but happy to meet soon and think through what the next finalizing steps would be.
I think I am too.
So yeah, we'll keep that going. And I wonder if this is also a good time to think about if there's anything else that we are not talking about that could form a new subcommittee, if there's things that you feel like you've wanted to do for a while and need a partner to activate it. Because I think this was a question in the overview and startup document, but it was like, what are the subcommittees? How do you join one? How does it happen? And I think the answer was it's really spurred out of little projects and ideas that committee members had. And so it's evolved over time to reflect what people want to spend time on and what we feel like our priorities are. So I'd be happy just to like open up the floor if some folks have other ideas of things that we should be focused on or other things that could be guiding goals or North Stars we have.
Is the agenda set the exact same every single meeting? Or are there like rotational things? Like in the spring, we're going to talk about this, or in, downtime, we're going to maybe review our website and the documents on it, or I haven't really paid attention and done like a compare doc. So,
It's usually there's like a bunch of standard items that we put on every month, like the ongoing work updates, and updates from the city. Basically, to this week's this this agenda is pretty much our standard, and then as things come up, if there's a project that might involve tree removals or trees or anything that seems of interest, people will come do that. So that's sort of an add-on. Or if we figure something out that we want to keep talking on, working on, then we will put that on the next month's agenda. But we don't have like a seasonal rotation of items, but we could definitely think about that if they're useful seasonal changes to the agenda.
Yeah, I think it's evolved or sort of happens naturally around the outreach calendar. And then if we have any planting related events, that's usually seasonally influenced. And I think like the items we bring to tabling changes, if it's like leave the leaves in the fall versus no mow May, kind of catering what we're handing out to the public will shift. But that is a good question. Do you have ideas of how, yeah, do you have ideas on meeting
um,
organization and how
I
it could
mean,
evolve?
I think we did like a revamp, or like we re-looked at the website recently and put a bunch of documents up there. So that might be something to do like once a year or something like that. Um, and I think maybe if we ever have meetings where we spent a lot of time on resident concerns, so some things got like squeezed out at the end, maybe we start with them at the next meeting or make sure that there's time for them. I don't have any like significant concerns, more just curiosity.
Yeah, I like the idea that on an ad hoc basis, certain like running items, either if they're timely or if for the sake of continuity from a previous meeting, we kind of front load those. Um, but I think sometimes we've been able to do that just by taking a look at the agenda at the top and deciding if we wanted to do it. So um, I think that's been helpful.
I'd add that if any of us have something we want to see on the agenda, a week ahead of time, if you can get it into the co-chairs and Vanessa. Vanessa, I don't know when you like to send the agenda on Friday morning before um, the week before, before our meeting. Um,
Yeah,
so
I usually send the agenda to the co-chairs Friday before our meeting, and then I have to submit it for posting. It has to be posted by law at least 48 hours before our meeting. I try to get it up on Monday
Yeah.
by the afternoon. So once it's posted, it's unless there's something super urgent that needs to be added, it has to wait till the next meeting. By Monday morning, the week of our meeting is like the deadline
I'd
for
love
you all.
I'd love to find a way to make us to be more strategic. Like I feel like I mean I if it is somehow helpful for us to participate in an inventory of every single tree that has been taken down or whatever like that like I'm fine with boring parts of the job, but to me what's more interesting is really feeling that we are somehow contributing to helping to make Somerville greener and to helping to make helping the city to think of ways to sort of like I want us to be a force multiplier for you in some way, you know? And to me, part of that, for example, would be like thinking more about how can we increase public engagement in tree planting and in planting native species. How can we like do we need to think about more of those interconnections between tree planting and other aspects of what we're doing? Like what I was talking about earlier about heat resilience. Do we want to like should we be going in some way? Like, you know, I was again, like I'm still inspired by this event that I went to earlier today, but you know, like a nonprofit that I'm part of does walk audits, and they're the walk audits that they do are focused on you know, pedestrian safety and walkability. But like, when was the last time that like we could very easily, not necessarily in the winter, but like, you know, come April or so, could we or should we be doing like neighborhood walks as a committee to really be like, let's take a look at like what is the tree situation in Ward 2 or in Ward 1 or in this part of Ward whatever, you know. I think that that would be really great. It would give us more ways to add value. So that's my personal ambition here, while recognizing that I am saying I want to have more fun and do less boring things, and that's just me being lazy.
I love
Are
that
you
idea of a tree walk.
are you thinking like walk as a committee just to like all be on the same visual page?
Yeah,
Or
literally. Yeah, like
yeah.
literally, like could we meet like, you know, like I know that the committee has been Zoom based all along, but like there's no reason why we couldn't have an in-person meeting and just have it be like we're going to meet at wherever, like say we're, you know, find public location that is convenient. Um, and we will leave from there at X time to go on a walk for the last 45 minutes of the meeting or whatever. It's more inconvenient for us, but it's like to me, it's just like that's more hands-on. That's more what I care about.
Mhm. Yep, that sounds good. We might want to wait till it's light later, and we would have to meet somewhere that's publicly accessible and ADA accessible. So there are limited meeting spots, but I know sometimes people have meetings. If we wanted to do Ward 1, there are meetings at the school there. What's it called? School, East Somerville Community School.
Yeah,
So we could
yeah. I
do
think
that or
yeah,
something.
there's a public school everywhere somewhere or a library or something.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Your tree walks also reminded me if you guys, if anyone is interested in doing more like hands-on help sort of on your own, one thing that I like to do seasonally, but don't always get a chance to do all of is check warranty trees. So I could give whoever's interested lists of trees to check to see if they are dead and need to be replaced while they're still under warranty. That could be a helpful add-on sort of definitely separate from having a nice meeting together and talking about trees, but could be something fun that's in the real world.
Yes,
That sounds
please.
fun.
Yeah, Vanessa, if I don't know how accessible or handy that list is, but if there was, and I am a little worried about adding something to the standing agenda, but if there's like a list of 10 items or like 10 trees, I know I would love to make an excuse for like a walk a week
Yeah.
to go visit one. And so I would want to make sure this feels like easy for you, but if there is a list of things to check up on and we could take some photos and um, that sounds fun. I'm glad to hear it might be helpful.
Okay, awesome. It's easier to tell tree condition for non people who do it all the time a little bit later in the spring, in the season, at least when the buds are starting to swell more. So why don't I put that on as a figure out and give you a list by March sort of situation? We can figure out how to divide up some checks.
Cool. Thanks for suggesting.
I think that could be a great substitution because we used to go out and do all the adopt a tree tags, and that was sort of the opportunity to like be out in the world and see people and talk to our trees and talk to our community members. And now that's been sort of run much more efficiently, which is great. But I think this could be a lovely substitution that gets folks out and also um, helps the workload too. So I
Totally.
wonder if it's still integrated, we could use that same form
I think
that we're
maybe I'm
doing for
gonna think
Adopt a
about
Tree,
it.
but
I'm doing better at keeping the inventory up to date, so it might be easiest to just do it directly in the inventory. Then I can train you all how to use that inventory and give you extra privileges. I gotta think through that, how to get that out. But that may be a possibility. Otherwise, we can do definitely that form.
I also think it would be fun to get together and prune because we used to have pruning events in Chicago where we'd pick a park and then we'd go and we'd all kind of work on the park, even though maybe it wasn't like part of Chicago's formal pruning plan. If you walk around, you can usually find something where you think it would benefit from some pruning. Um, but of course, if the tree is very mature, you really need like a true pole saw or something with like height.
Yeah, there's plenty of young trees that could use a little bit of pruning, even just like clearing sidewalks. And maybe, Ellie, since you have so much experience with this and all the trainings for pruning, you could help get us situated because I'm not sure that everyone has done the pruning piece before. I mean, I can teach too, but you've gone through different trainings, so it could be useful. But we could probably get a pile of pruners to use for an event like that. That'd be
Yeah,
cool.
could we have like a training or
Mhm. Yeah, I think that would be cool.
I would
We
love
might,
that.
yeah, if we could do that before planting starts, that would be easier for me to arrange. So maybe that would be a March-ish time period too. I'll start thinking about that. Do you have like training guides and stuff, Allie, from your different pruning
ooh,
tree
I could
keeper
email
stuff?
someone. I could
Okay.
email someone, but it'll from Chicago for sure. They have some materials. I
Hmm.
don't know how specific they would be to Midwest trees. I think the techniques translate.
Yeah.
So
I
I'll
feel
reach
like,
out to someone. In Newton, what we do
someone
is
in
we just
Newton, yeah.
shadow.
Okay. There's not like there's not a document. It's a
Oh, you
learn
know
by
what? I think
doing.
Newton did put like a YouTube video out there
Mhm.
too. So I'll reach out to my Newton group and my
Yeah.
Chicago tree keeping group and
Okay.
see if they have some materials.
Thank you. That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sad Zoom Wemidar doesn't have reactions because I want to give like a big star celebration reaction to that. So yeah, I'd like to add it to February agenda to set a date for March. Great. Any other brilliant ideas? This is a good list. All right. So I think next on the agenda is urban forestry related job postings and RFPs. But we can either likely wrap up a little bit early tonight. Um, while we're brainstorming, is there a benefit to having a larger group chat about U of C recommendations, or do we think the smaller group should meet first and we can come back fresh next month?
Is this like
Um,
picking up where we left off last week or last month?
Just a provocation of like, we have time as a whole group. Is it helpful to talk big, large group, or will it be more efficient to have folks who probably already have ideas to huddle up first and then we can bring it back to the whole group? Y'all can bring it back to the whole group next month, which is
do you
totally a
mean,
fine answer.
are we talking about U of C recommendations to the mayor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was a good discussion last time, and I know Marion had some ideas, but she had to leave early. Um, though tried to bring some of your notes from the email exchange into it. But if we have time, I'm game. I think it can be hard, like outside of this meeting, to find time that everyone is free. So
Mhm.
making the
Mhm.
most of the time that we all make to be together makes sense to me.
I'd look to one of you to be open to facilitating that part. So totally either way. But I was like, yeah, if we have time, is there a good way we can make use of it as a big group?
I think it might be interesting just to like jot down general ideas because I started kind of using this the mayor had a questionnaire
Hmm.
that he had put out and I was using that as um as a guide, but I think um I think I just like what would I just like in general what just some broad strokes maybe. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah. Do you have
Uh,
a document that would be appropriate to
yes. And I
share?
yes. Um hold on.
And I can pull up.
Well, so um okay, so I can make um I just want to put some restrictions copy link. Okay, I'll try this. Hopefully this does not make you an editor. If it does, Leia, test it out first. Oh, you need
Oh,
access?
you need access. Yeah.
Oh, God.
I can also take notes in another spot and send them to you after.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I
I
can also
know
share my
Michael
screen.
has. Oh, yeah. I can share while we're sorting through that. I think this is where yeah, community
Yeah.
engagement survey.
So the survey was, what are the most important change?
I think there are a number of policy committees.
Environment sustainability. Could you just click on that one to see if the
Mhm.
questions change?
I think all the questions are
They're
the
all the same.
same. Yeah. The
Okay.
questions will get directed to that committee.
Okay. Well, let me just,
Because we started a brainstorm last time, right?
we
And then
did,
that
we did, we did, we
spiraled
did.
into the committee, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
Michael, feel free to chime in if you have a question or solution or.
Okay. So, most important challenges or needs in this issue area is one of the questions. Any existing programs or initiatives that are working well and should be expanded? Any gaps in programs or initiatives where the city is falling short? If you could recommend a few actions that the city should take to improve the issue area, what would they be? Please explain. And so yeah, maybe we can just start with challenges, or if people just have ideas on recommendations to improve the issue, as it says. And oh, Michael?
Sure, thanks. I am thinking of this as maybe a gap for number three, but maybe this group has ways to turn it into a suggested recommendation for number four. But one thing I've noticed just while being on the committee is how some of these questions around cutting down trees or permission starts out as I'm not sure if it's either a zoning or a development issue. So really the first time it comes to the city and like the first forums some of these issues are decided in tends to be, and people can correct me if I'm not naming the right committees, but it's around development and it's around planning. Um, and I wonder if there's a way where urban forestry can either be plugged in or if there's and Vanessa, feel free to correct the record here if you feel like there are existing avenues or like the visibility is good enough. But I know it feels like for cases where we might have either a large number of trees being knocked down because of a new development or there's planning happening and the reality of the how much it contributes to the urban forest may not ever hit this committee. And so that's just something I'm thinking about of how we could get like visibility or input there. And my only thought is like letting the mayor know that like considerations around the urban forest should come into play when we have like large scale developments. But grateful for any folks here who might have a little more sophisticated knowledge around this to jump in with thoughts.
I know they any tree removals have to be like for a large development they have to get a tree removal permit. So we hear about it that way for like big ones. But are you hoping to hear about it before that or
I
in more
guess that
detail?
that sounds great. I think one question is, do we have situations where they where developers aren't getting permits and it becomes like an enforcement action after? Because it sounds like enforcement is so much harder for us to do.
Yeah. There have been some cases. Those developers get fined and they hopefully won't make the same mistake again. But we like, yeah, I don't know how to know about them either till the violation happened. Except going to all those planning board meetings and stuff.
I don't have a good solution, but since the mayor's taking recommendations, we
Yeah,
could say
sure.
like, hey, you should tell your offices to try to, I don't know. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes to that.
And I think I found the document that we were looking at last time, but I wonder if someone else can spearhead note adding. So I think I'm just viewing this. But it looks like Tori's taking notes.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. I don't know if I'm capturing everything right. So if and can you see like yourselves on like the sidebar on my screen?
Oh wait, are you still seeing my screen? Or are you seeing let me stop sharing. There we go. All right, now we're seeing Tori's screen. And we just
Okay.
see your document.
You just see the document. You don't see like I don't need to close you guys out
No, it's just
like
a
you're
blank.
um so just Michael, just to make sure I'm capturing like so is there like a way when these large developments are happening that I guess that you perhaps that we should know about it as the Urban Forestry Committee to let people know or
I guess the two ideas, one would be for development, can there be some sort of proactive notification of the developers of their requirements? Um, and the other would be, um, can this, can the mayor take efforts so that when like development or planning or those people are coming in, we're not just relying on the developers to come to the permit, um, that the city, like the folks in the city could be encouraged to let Vanessa know about them proactively. Um, and I don't know that I have the best ideas for this. I'm just thinking like, what are the ways that we could minimize the chance that like developers cut things down and just pay a fine? Like, how could we make the preservation of the trees like more front of mind for them as they're building?
Suzanne, do you have a response to that or new idea?
Oh, new idea. I'll let others speak off of this idea.
I have one idea. I think having the Urban Design Commission and Zoning Board aware. So like trying to foster more co-understanding of each other's purviews, I guess. Could also help because if they go to zoning board and they're like, we want to do this development, and they're like, y'all need to go talk to the tree committee because they're not going to be happy about this. Like getting them on our side as well, and vice versa, because I think we're further down in their in the list. But if we have more mutual understanding of what our priorities are, because I know like in my professional world, some of my colleagues went to present to the UDC last night and they were talking about tree stuff. And they're like, oh, yeah, we know the tree people. So, like, we're going to do it right. Speaking of like my colleagues, they know that we know about trees. So, if the UDC knows to be like, oh, no, you guys got to go talk to the tree people. Is that making sense? I think more cross committee collaboration is kind of the gist of it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's something that we could be working on more too, outside of recommending to the mayor, but it seems like something we could work on as a committee too. I've never been to any of those meetings.
Yeah, I know I had a chance to meet some of them at the mayor does host a like committee meet and greet. And so talking to some of them there, I was like, oh yeah, we should collaborate more. And then someone has to initiate something for it to happen. So it kind of fell off, but opportunity for sure. Any other thoughts on this or responses on this topic, or we can. All right, Suzanne, go ahead. Your next idea.
So this is a little bit of a pivot, I guess, but this seems like a good opportunity to be very explicit about like city resources. And I know Vanessa and David have both mentioned not having enough staff for maintenance of like city-owned trees and city-owned properties. And I don't know whether that's a like funding or a hiring issue, and if you guys want to speak to that at all, but it seems like either as a program gap or as an important challenge that we should be talking about like city funding for urban forestry, maybe even specifically to hiring and maintenance requirements.
We are pretty good on funding at the moment. That's perhaps for some equipment, but hiring has been a challenge. Hiring for the positions in DPW, hard to get qualified staff. We just don't get applicants.
Do you think that that crosses like departments? Is that kind of like a general city concern, or does it seem specific to like DPW work?
I think it, from my understanding, it seems more challenging in DPW, maybe because there's just so many positions at any one time and so many open ones. Definitely see challenges in my larger department too for recruiting, but not to the same extent. So that's from the positions I am aware of in DPW. It's harder in DPW than other locations.
And that's also limited by union like pay rates. I know is something we've talked about, like these positions are asking for a lot of qualifications, and if the pay could better match those qualifications or provide routes to getting those trainings so that they can be qualified for those jobs. I know the union contract negotiations have been brought up as a challenge there, but we're asking for the world here. So I wonder if also like more resources to job training programs specifically for jobs that are hard to hire in the city would also help. Because if there was like more programs in the high school or at the community college where folks could be getting these skills, and then ideally the job would pay enough to make it worth the effort to go get those skills, that would close this job gap.
Yeah, I think so what I've seen trending in the tree industry in general is it's a first off, even at competitive rates for compensation, it's hard to keep people staffed because it's a difficult job and it's sound like an old guy saying, can't get people to work hard these days, but it seems to be the case. It's a pretty labor intensive job to drag brush, climb trees, cut, get dirty, and keep showing up to work. So that seems to be an issue. I've seen it trending over the past 10 years. Um, the DPW is a little new for me, working with unions. I do see that extra layer of having to uh, also, I do think our pay for a foreman position, like what we're looking for, and I don't remember the verbiage for the other one, but it's middle of the road competitive, I think middle to top. Um, but then there are some stipulations where the union will not hire a foreman if they don't have a CDL, if they don't have a hoisting, or there's a couple things that are just like there's no bargaining or no wiggle room there to train here and get a CDL. So out of the 3 applicants we've had, there was just no wiggle room around a couple things. Would love to have wiggle room. Everybody involved would love to have wiggle room, but does seem to be kind of a union stipulation. So whatever could be done is great, but it's yeah, does seem to be a bit of the hang up. And then add on top of that just a very small pool of applicants overall. But yeah, always helpful to have more eyes on the problem. And I do know, or I at least heard through the grapevine, that our new mayor is very interested in helping staff and wants the city running optimally and good response times to service requests from constituents. And that requires everybody. We're not the only departments lacking in manpower, person power, that's for sure. So a lot of people are interested in this.
So there's something that I bring up a lot, and I know I'm tedious about it, so I apologize in advance, but that I I know that there are people like, like when we have like a tree, like with the Mystic River Watershed Commission, like with those tree planting sessions, you seem to have plenty of people who wanted to come and plant trees. And I think that there's, especially actually in some ways in this political moment, people are really welcoming of opportunities to give free labor to their community. Um, and what that requires is really good babysitters rather than people with CDLs. And I was wondering whether part of the solution, and I know that there are union issues with this too. So like, because that we've talked about even like basic things like sweeping the sidewalks in East Somerville being problematic. Um, but is there some potential for expanding your capacity through citizen engagement in which instead of hiring a burly man, you're hiring a 22-year-old woman who's really friendly and really good at like motivating volunteers?
Yeah, well, certainly no issue on my end as far as motivating people who want to do tree work. Um, and as far as stepping on people's toes, if it's a union job, I've heard some things around that, even with myself included, being a non-union member, going out there and doing work. But that's kind of been squashed, I think. So there would be a fair amount of pushback, say something were to come up around that. There could be pushback on public trees on the street. Maybe park related things could be okay. Um, I think probably if all of that was to be okay, it would be a bit hard to move around like insurances and qualifications and if someone fell and broke their back, um, if someone tripped on a sidewalk and broke their ankle, if there are a lot of liabilities that involve. So I don't know what I just foresee that being kind of an issue. Um, for example, if you were to try to offer, you were to get payment as a private person to try to go do tree work for someone and not have insurance and not have any of these things, you can't do that as a private contractor. So you would need those things to be covered in somehow. If it was a volunteer-based thing, I am all for
I mean, I
tree
don't know.
work.
Yeah, I don't know what kinds of things. Like it could be even things like I know like the tree wells get full of weeds and get full of like we've even had like, like Japanese knotweed come up in some neighborhoods and whatever. Like I'm thinking like are there things that volunteers with no great expertise with not particularly fabulous fitness levels, but with goodwill and a willingness to sweat and a love of trees and plants could be contributing that would that could be done by a volunteer that could be organized by like managed by a volunteer coordinator or two. It's like I continue to raise this as a thing because I think that there is a lot of untapped potential in communities.
One thought I have is this sounds like it could be like a special project of our outreach committee. Like if it's something as simple as like weeding or watering or something even a not great gardener like myself could do. I think it just takes that the elbow work and the time to organize it maybe. And so I know that could live in the city. And I also think and hear like the motivation behind your question. It sounds like pretty fun. If some of us had the capacity and the thought to organize something like this. It's not to say we shouldn't include it in here, but I'm hearing some nice ideas for like outreach or community engagement you're saying, Marion.
Call on yourselves or Leah.
Yeah, sorry, Rob, go for it. I'll get in line behind you.
Thanks. Real quick, there was actually in the Cambridge Day, which covers both Cambridge and Somerville. It's a pretty cool paper. They've done a pretty good job of really doing good community reporting recently. There was a letter to the editor from two people, one of whom I think is on our tree committee, basically talking about every once a month on a Saturday or something that these two or three people go out and they basically do just what you were sort of describing, Marion. They take a look at tree wells that need some attention and they clean them all up, take a little picture before and after. Um, I think it's an awesome idea. And if it has to be really non-formal, doesn't mean it wouldn't be any less effective. Sometimes non-formal is better, like without all the, well, we have to worry about this or worry about that. It's just, it probably needs to be completely separate from the city, or whatever. But anyways, I love the idea, and I know that it's happening on some level, at least in some places. It could be bigger and better, though.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And to build on it a little bit, I know with a lot of larger parks in the city and throughout the country, this issue is also ever present. And I think a lot of those parks form like friends of groups. And so like it'll be the friends of Franklin Park, the friends of whatever. And I think the point is that it's distinctly a not non-governmental group. So it's typically a nonprofit who is better set up to manage volunteers. And I think as a nonprofit, they can handle some of that, like, signing waivers and just leveraging larger groups of folks and also getting grants to have tools and equipment. And so to me, it almost seems like a Friends of Camberville tree pits could be a place to, you know, form a nonprofit and then be able to catalyze volunteers. And I know on a similar level, there's been groups doing trash pickup along the greenway or the community path, which is great. So I think the low key way without organization is totally valid and seems like it's happening. I think there's also groups um, like Green and Open Somerville. I think they do cleanup sometimes. And I know the group around sort of Alewife and Arlington, they do a lot of invasive removal along the trails out there. So I think there's a variety of precedents set around our region, but it's going to make me go talk to some friends who are thinking about this, but I'm wondering if there's a way that the mayor can be like, let's start a Friends of group for informal open spaces in our city. And if there's a role that the city can play in, catalyzing that, even though it's a separate group that's not the city. Yeah, and the benefit of nonprofits is that they are built to be able to apply for grants, get small scale funding, and leverage it with the help of volunteers.
What would the mayor do?
I think that's what I'm like provocating. So I'm going to go ask some friends that are involved in this type of work to see if, to see how friends of groups typically start. I think a lot of times they start because community members rally together and say, we want our park to be like clean and happy and lovely, and we're going to form a nonprofit to do it. But I'm wondering if like the mayor saying there should be a Friends of group would catalyze something. So I'm not sure that it is helpful, but I'm pondering if it could be helpful as like a a vision because I don't think the city is necessarily interested in managing large groups of volunteers or tracking and doing that level of communication or has the capacity to necessarily. And in my experience with nonprofits, that's usually that is the work. So like that is someone's full-time job is managing volunteers and communicating with them and leveraging what they have to offer.
And
Yeah.
I could very much see, and I'm inventing city funds out of thin air, but like I can imagine a call for proposals with $5,000 grants to take a discrete place, like I don't know, like the East Somerville or a particular neighborhood or Prospect Hill or wherever, and just see whether any existing nonprofit is willing to do it. Because, like, for example, their Groundwork Somerville might be into it. Green and Open might be into it. Somerville Garden Club might be into it. There's all sorts of different entities that if you throw them enough money that it feels like it's not just you're just making us do more work for you with no credit, it could really be something attractive.
I feel like he said he was supportive of like square advisory committees or councils. Um, but you don't want a few like activists who are like, I don't want a tall building, like over my dead body, kind of getting in the way, and stifling um, certain things. So you never know what's going to happen when a friends group comes together. Like, what are they actually going to advocate for, and what are their underlying motivations? They may be very different. In Chicago, almost every park when I was living in Hyde Park, which was like around the University of Chicago, it was like Obama stomping grounds where Jackson Park is. Every park in Hyde Park had an advisory committee. And I was on two of them. I was on the Jackson Park Advisory Committee, and then I was on a really, really tiny one that was like an alley park. So it was like huge versus little. Um, but I don't remember all the logistics of like how they set it up. Like how much does it cost to set up a not-for-profit and, you know, have like formal meeting minutes and, you know, pay for a website and all of that. Like, does it take a lot?
I can chime in there real quick, not from the city perspective, but having retired from teaching recently and starting to look into what might I be doing with some of my future time and thinking about a nonprofit. It's a bit of a bear to really start a nonprofit. There's a lot of requirements. On the other hand, there is something called a fiscal sponsor, and in some ways that can be really a great way to go. They typically will take a portion of the money, but if you find a good fiscal sponsor group, it might only take, 10 or 15% of the, let's say, grant money or money that you were to fundraise, but they provide services typically for that. Um, Insurance and other things that would be difficult to figure out and do just on your own as a volunteer. But um, so I'm kind of looking into that area, but it's something to think about, a fiscal sponsor. And sometimes it can even be an existing nonprofit, but not all of them want to take that on, but some specialize in that. So something to think about.
I wanted to just chime in around just in the DPW. Um, we need to have a horticulturalist. We need to have, and I've talked a little bit with Ben Waldrop about this, like our wonderful gardener Rachel, she has the entry level DPW laborer position, and that's not what her training, she's a horticulturalist, she's a gardener. She can be taken care could be taking care of sorry, um of our green infrastructure and parks. Of course, it's a matter of like ho- how many people are actually at the DPW. So I would just love to see her in an elevated position that's commensurate with the work that she does. So she's the four-person on the cruise. Um, so I don't know what that would look like, but we definitely need someone at the DPW who knows how to do ecological landscaping. Like we have you, David, for trees. We need someone in that who has that skill and who is paid commensurately. Not sure what that looks like again, but that like for me that has to happen. We can't be mowing every week in the summer when the grass isn't really growing. We can't be doing these things we've always been doing and that are wasteful of resources and people's time and energy, like switching behaviors is guess what I'm sort of trying to say.
Maybe this needs to be the first and most emphasized recommendation that we end up sending to the mayor.
Like getting a horticulturalist or um
Yeah, or elevating that position, as you were saying,
okay.
to what it could and should be in terms of not only work description, but perhaps the compensation as well.
Wholeheartedly agree with, yeah, somehow breaking out a position um, and attracting more than one person. And, yeah, absolutely agree.
Yes. Um,
I think it's a great idea too.
And maybe, I mean, we spoke a little bit about it last time, but just you can maybe tack on that area about a majority of the one person we do have doing this spends a good amount of time watering annuals during prime prime months.
yeah.
And planting those annuals.
And planting them.
Yeah, I know we had a tirade on annuals in this document a little bit higher up, or lower
Yes.
down. Yeah, there you go.
Yes. It's there.
And there is someone who runs Friends of Somerville Instagram and Facebook account. They haven't posted since 2023, but it looks like they have a cute dog and have the mission of highlighting the beauty of Somerville, increasing the number of trees, and taking care of parks. So someone's out there, and they have a cute dog. I'm sure we know who it is, but I don't know who it is.
Interestingly, there's also a Somerville Friends of the Urban Forest Facebook group.
Hmm.
Anyone know about that? News to me.
That would be some fuff.
Oh,
Um,
is that you?
I think that was Chris Dwan and Melissa McWhinney.
Oh,
That again also came out of during that turbulent time of
Hmm.
the Beacon Street massacre and tree massacre and the Green Line uh, removal of all the green.
I had a quick thought here. It's not completely related, but on some level, maybe it is. People probably already even know this, but Steve Nutter, who was the leader of Green Cambridge, was just named head of sustainability. I don't know exactly what that position's relation is to this kind of thing, but given Steve's background with all of the sort of horticulture-ish work, maybe we need to get in touch with him pronto, and again, maybe recommending to the new mayor that, hey, this guy has an awesome background. Hopefully you already know this, that's why you hired him, but I don't know, maybe jumping on that would be a good idea.
He did start a nursery in Cambridge for Cambridge, something we've been chatting about.
Yeah, and doing the, the planting of the trees on private property.
Hmm.
I don't know, hopefully he wants to bring that program to Somerville maybe somehow.
Yeah, he's one of our advisors on the Myra grant to plant trees in private property and public.
Cool.
Yeah, it's Green Cambridge, right?
Yeah,
Mhm. I'm going to say he's led invasive removals too. Not
yeah,
that he would necessarily do it, but he has, since he knows sort of the infrastructure. He
right.
can,
Yeah, and his program's dealt a lot with young people and interns and high school kids and whatnot. So I don't know. Hopefully that is a really positive movement maybe for Somerville to have someone like him to see if he can at least cultivate a Green Somerville program similar to what he was doing to help supplement all the other things that Somerville is doing that are already pretty cool.
we should have him come in the next, like not like maybe in April or May, once Jake has his feet on the ground, like have him come talk to us.
That would be awesome, I think, yeah.
Great. I want to do a quick time check. We have about 10 minutes left in our meeting. So if we want to have a few last contributions, I think this was a really good continued discussion.
I have something quick I can add if there aren't others who want to jump in front of me. So we had our tree meeting yesterday in Cambridge, and one of the cool things that they shared with us, in addition to the typical, this is how many trees we planted this year and whatnot, was that they had some really cool data that had been gathered over the summer from some interns, I think paid interns that they had. And it was basically tree mortality of every single species in the city, which I thought was freaking great. And it made me really wonder how that data could be used. What they don't do is interesting in Cambridge right now is they don't do a particularly good job of tracking at all what species are actually native versus non-native or cultivar versus straight. Um,
Oh,
so I kind of feel like it would be really interesting for me and whoever else to start looking at like what data points do we have between the two cities and what could we compare and contrast and use to help each other? For example, if we were to take tree mortality rates of all the different species in Cambridge and then look at the preferred species list that I think has been produced in Somerville and see, oh, of the list that's preferred, like these 10 or 15 have by far the best survival rates or whatever. And maybe there's already some of this informally done, but um, I don't know, it's making me want to geek out and think that that'd be fun or some other data projects to think about.
So is this
Um,
on average, or is this like when a tree dies, it gets added to the list and it lived
yeah,
20
I have
years?
to, I'll have to double check, but I think it was the trees that they've planted, not pre-existing trees. So I think within the last, it might be for the last 2 years or something like that, but I can double check. I don't have the data myself. It was just sort of quickly presented, but I can ask them to have a look at it and we could see those kinds of things.
Okay, so it sounds like it's projected tree mortality?
Uh, no, I got the impression it was trees that had been planted and had died. But that's obviously not something they have from
Oh,
10 or 20
okay.
years, right? So, but they do know. I mean, I think cities know, we planted these trees in these tree wells, and these are the ones that died. And again, I'd have to dig in a little bit to find out exactly what the parameters surrounding it are.
Find that very interesting and would love to have that data. I have spreadsheets and spreadsheets of trees and what they've died, but it's not compiled yet in a way that I can just like bang that out. But if you want to work together on that, I'd love to know how our trees are doing and which ones are dying.
Mm.
It's hard to, you have to know that your tree like died, obviously. So just being able to track that and compile that information is important. And there's probably, I don't know that we could do it for every species that I plant in a reliable way because some, I plant 5 or 10. It's hard to get like an actual mortality of that species that's like real. It could just be a freak, season. But, you know, it's it can be calculated whether or not it means something
Yeah, I
would
mean,
be more informative for more like for species that we plant more individuals of those species. So we have a better data set.
sure. And I think the way probably you approach it is you take the best data, you sort of start with what can you glean from there, and then you dig deeper and realizing that it might take more work or that the data might not be, if it's a sample of 5 versus a sample of 50, it's not as good, but any data is better than none. And obviously there's probably some really quick, easy data that would be at least beneficial on some level. So
Definitely. And our new inventory has a field for cultivars. So I'm trying to track that going forward. It hasn't been fully implemented yet, so it will be a more effective tool in the future than it will be in the past. Although my spreadsheets all have cultivar. So yeah.
okay,
Mm.
cool.
That's great. Any last words?
Which species were the best
Oh yeah.
or the
Yeah,
worst?
I'll have
Do
to
you
dig
remember?
in and
Okay.
take a look at it. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I
Uh,
don't recall.
Well, it makes me think like last year, 2 years ago, we had a really bad NISA year. And so I'm curious if that was like region wide or just a bad
Mm,
batch.
yeah,
And yeah, it's a good point because if a tree is hit by a car, that is not the tree dying, that is the tree being killed. And so is there a way to track like cause of death? Which is sad.
sure.
But it seems like what David has been showing us, all the trees that are like infested with fungi, it seems like we're starting to get a photo database, so there might be, detective work in there to glean cause of death.
Rob, would
Cool.
you be willing to do like a 5 or 10 minute presentation next month at our UFC meeting with some of the findings?
Yeah, let me see what I can get a hold of first.
Okay.
And then as soon as I find out from them, what I can access, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And my wheels are really spinning right now. I'm trying to figure out, I'm probably jumping way ahead, but I don't know if those biodiversity grants at DCR announced in a very quick time frame just a month or two ago become available again later this year. I wonder if this might be an interesting possibility of going for one of those grants, because it would be helping us try to figure out how to choose the best species to improve our biodiversity and keeping it, in line with mortality rates, etc. And maybe there's some other really cool other things too. And when myself or whoever else would be involved would be able to get paid to do that work, Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that all day. If you can do something you're loving and get paid, that's kind of cool. So yeah, I'll dig in on that and get back to you, Vanessa, in maybe in a week or so. Well, as soon as I can.
Awesome. Well, that seems like a lovely note to wrap us up on. Yeah, thanks everyone for the brainstorming here. And I quickly scanned the job postings and RFPs, and I don't think there's anything new. I think all the job postings that we talked about last time are a lot of them are still up there. So check that out and go find some tree surgeons. And I think our last item is to approve minutes from previous meetings on December 18th. So I think Vanessa sent those out, and I'll do a quick or looking for a motion to approve the minutes from.
Motion to approve the December meeting minutes.
All right, and a second. I see Marion as a second, and then I'll do a quick roll call. So we have David,
Here.
Doris,
Approve.
Joelle,
Approve.
myself, Leah, approve, Luca,
Approve.
Marion,
Yes.
Michael,
Approve.
Suzanne,
Approve.
and Vanessa.
Approve.
Did I forget anyone?
I approve too.
Oh, Tori, sorry. It's always whoever's unmuted get the list just jumps around and makes it extra hard. So amazing. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And do we have a motion to adjourn our meeting tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Michael makes motion. I will second that motion. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will see you with a lot of updates in February.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Have a
Thank
good
you
evening.
all.
Thanks. Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Bye-bye.